What's up, peeps? This is Todd and welcome back to my show. Today we're going to talk about how the rich properly use debt to get even richer. If that sounds good, let's hop into the video. So when you hear about debt, most people think about bad debt like student loans, credit cards, a car payment, stuff that basically doesn't make you wealthy. But the rich understand how to use debt as leverage and how to actually take that debt and use it to make more money. So in this video, I'm going to articulate how the rich actually use debt instead of their own cash, and by doing so, they can grow their wealth exponentially. So I'm going to pull up my calculator so everybody can follow along, but let's just say you have Joe Blow, rich person, and let's assume that this individual has $10 million in the stock market. And in a given year, let's assume that this individual gets a 10% return on that investment. So that's $1 million. Let's make sure I did that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's hard because the calculator doesn't have a comma on it. But yeah, that is $1 million. So in other words, this person's account grew by 10%. They had $10 million in there, so it grew by $1 million. Let's say that this individual wants to use this $1 million and they want to go buy real estate. Now, since when you're buying real estate, you can put 20% down and leverage the rest, that would basically be $1 million, or this $1 million gain that this individual who's making money in the stock market can use to go buy a $5 million apartment building. So in other words, they can sell this stock, capture that $1 million gain, and then go use that $1 million to buy a $5 million apartment building. Although, not exactly, and here's why. If this rich person sells the stock, meaning they actually realize the gain, they actually make $1 million in capital gains, that's going to trigger a taxable event. Right now, the capital gains tax is topped at 20%, and in this case, that would be $200,000. But the Biden administration, he wants to raise the capital gains to 39.6%, so almost 40%. So if that law goes through, let's say it goes through in the year 2022 or 2023, who knows, this person, if they sell their stock and realize that gain, they'll have to pay 40% in capital gains tax, meaning they will pay $400,000 in taxes on that $1 million gain. But even if Joe Biden's plan does not go into effect, paying $200,000 on a $1 million gain, that doesn't sound like too much fun either. But this rich individual who has $10 million in the stock market, they can take what's called a margin loan, which is basically the brokerage house that they use, whether it's Charles Schwab or Vanguard or, whatever you guys use. Oftentimes you can take a margin loan for incredibly low rates. So instead of cashing out and realizing the gain and paying that tax, this rich person can take a margin loan from the broker of $1 million and pay 3% in interest. Now, I know what you're thinking. Paying interest is bad and you should always avoid it. And absolutely, that's true. But hear me out for a second. Would you rather pay 3% interest on $1 million, or would you rather pay 40% in taxes on $1 million that you have to pay in year one? That is $400,000 that's coming directly out of your pocket. Now, there's also an opportunity cost, because if you realize the gain, you sell that stock, you take out the $1 million, in addition to paying the $400,000 in tax, you no longer have $1 million in the stock market that's getting you that 10% return. Now, if you keep the $1 million in a stock market and it gets 10% return the next year, well, then that's an extra $100,000 that you're going to make. But of course, if you sell and you take it out, you have to pay the $200,000 now, or perhaps $400,000 if Biden passes the tax law. You have to pay that in taxes, plus you're not going to be making the $100,000 in return. So it would behoove most rich people to instead take a margin loan of $1 million. They're going to pay 3% in interest, so $30,000 in interest, and they're going to take that $1 million and they're going to go buy a $5 million apartment building. Now, here's where it gets even crazier. If they put $1 million down on an apartment building, that means they're going to get a $4 million loan of also around 2 to 3%, because that's what interest rates are right now, and wealthy people can borrow money for cheaper than poor and middle class people can. I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm just saying it is what it is. So this apartment building has a $4 million loan, but of course that wealthy individual is going to fill that building with tenants that pay off the entire $4 million loan, and after the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance on the building, the cash flow, what's left over every month in profit, that will be more than enough to cover the margin loan. In other words, the profit that they make each and every month can go back to be paying that $1 million loan of 3% interest. So by understanding how to leverage debt And by taking out this margin loan, instead of cashing out and realizing the gain, you keep all your money. You don't pay the 20% in taxes or potentially the 40% in taxes. That $1 million is still in your account, producing a 10% return on average. And you were able to borrow $1 million, only paying 3%. So just on the interest you're paying versus the return that you're getting, you're still ahead 7%. Not to mention, you didn't have to fork over $200,000 or $400,000 in taxes. And because the money that you used for the down payment on the building wasn't actually yours, it was borrowed money, technically speaking, you have $0 in the deal. So now this building, which is paying for itself and paying back that $1 million loan, you essentially got a $5 million apartment building for free because it wasn't your cash that actually bought the building, and the money from your tenants is going off to pay off that building plus that margin loan of $1 million. Well, I hope this video was helpful to you, and I'll see you at the next one. Peace.